Hello everybody, my name is Chan from the AI Model Evaluation team. In this demo, I would like to walk through the process of running the Duo Chat evaluations using an experimental dataset or diagnostic, which is a subset of the 81 rows of data derived from both code generations and the Shoes Epic dataset that we evaluate earlier. This subset of data is capture area where chat is not performing well based on similarity score. So we treat Claude 2 or foundational model or response of the foundational model as ground truth, and we compared it with the output from Duo Chat and see, if they're in terms of the generated embeddings, they're similar semantically or not, and the less similar, then it means the quality are not that great. Okay, so this test is actually intended for the developers to do really rapid, low-cost experiments and get some confidence on the changes they made to GitLab. In this case, you can make the change to JDK and see if that have any impact, whether positively or negatively on the output. Okay, without further ado, I would get through the demo. Now, before I actually jump into the demo, I want to go through really quickly of what the overall pipeline look like. Just a quick run through it. So we use Apache Beam to structure our pipelines. This pipeline can be run locally or via data flow. Our team can run, across the cloud runners, which is go through a bigger data set, and this is kind of a weekly run that we do. For Duo Chat developers or that were not required to run this big data set, they just have to use the subset that we provided, and ideally we just do it locally. We have yet support input and output other than BigQuery, but we're gonna support that fairly soon. So have an MR ready to get that rolling as well. So first thing first, this pipeline we read the test cases. In this case, is in Diagnostic table in BigQuery. We apply the from template, and we batch these into a set of we'll batch these test cases into smaller batches and send this out to different models, including Duo Chat. So we treat Duo Chat API as a black box model in this case. And Duo Chat is set up locally, and it's talk to JDK and to AI Gateway and Anthropic API through that flow. So after we get all these response from the models and from Duo Chat API, we merge the answer, and then we called another model to do the evaluations. And after we got response from these model, we merged these evaluations right out to BigQuery. In this demo, I'm going to show you how I have it's kind of working a local branch and writing out to a file as well, so we can inspect that. But I'm looking to get this MR moving fairly quickly and have this support in the next few days. Okay, that's the overall flow. Let's switch to the terminal and run that. Okay, so to run the chat eval, we have created some instructions on how to do it. It's in the doc files. Few things I want to highlight is I think the one that kind of trip up a lot of people is how to authenticate to GCP. We need that access to read BigQuery and write it to BigQuery. Also that same credentials also used to call Vertex AI API. So in this case, we hit we need to get resolved from text bison, and that need to be set up. So please pay attention in here. If you had any questions, please feel free to ping the team. But the instructions I had here would be ideally self-serve as well. So you should be able to get that and get the service account access key set up and get it running. So I already have it set up, which then the next step for me is to look at the config file. So this is the driver of the whole evaluations. So the files is actually in config.config. We have some example file you can copy and make your own. I'm going to walk through real quickly here. So the beam config, we don't need to change anything much in here. You can use the def AI research. And direct runner means it run locally. The input BigQuery table, I don't think you need to change the input. We're gonna fixate it to Diagnostic V1, which is the subset of data that we identified earlier that performs the WAS, and it's at the moment it's only include 20 records and it's only focused on code generations until we got support for sitting context data. Then we can kind of put it in more in here, but at the moment it's only code generations, which is based on MPPP open source dataset, and this one does not require GitLab context to run. And the output, I think the output I can write it to external result, and I have actually let's do experiments. Doesn't really matter. And yeah, make sure you initial it with your name, so you know that it's you're creating it. Later if we would decide to clean up, and so we will ping you. Now this is the new config that is not yet supported in the main branch, but are going to push it out soon. This is actually an MR that raised, and this is supporting writing to local file systems as well. So this is going to come up in the next few days. Input adapter, just leave it as is. The eval setup, so I'll go for really lean setup at the moment. We have Claude 2, that's one of the answering model, and always the other side is Duo Chat. So we're comparing Claude 2 with Duo Chat here, was asking the same questions and see how these models respond. One of the key configuration for Duo Chat here is the base URL. So this one pointing to my local instance. You can do it, we can set up to point it to production as well. It's not advisable because that, doing or handling production workload, and the idea is you want to do the code change here in the JDK and evaluate it without even committing or pushing to a merge request or anything like that. So it is quite powerful. So make sure it points to local instance, and when we're evaluating the answer from Claude 2 and Duo Chat, as I mentioned earlier, better to use another model in this case to avoid, I guess, self-enhancing bias. And what I mean is, if we use the same model to evaluate the answer of the same, it might kind of score higher. For example, I asked Claude 2 to evaluate respond from Claude 2, obviously will be better. We actually haven't got any measure, but I think generally that most of the papers that or research paper that we cover highlight this bias, so just to be aware as well. So I used XSpice and latest in this case to evaluate. Okay, so all look good. All right, so before I run, the other thing, make sure that you go to JDK running, and also an AI gateway that running and power up as well. So we're gonna run this. Now we have an option to do a smaller sample. It's a quick test run, but I'm going to utilize this config here to speed up the demo a little bit. So if you don't specify test run or the sample size plus the sample size, it will run the whole, go through the whole data set. So in this case, at 20 is not as big, but I want to just getting smaller and just running 5 for now to see if actually speed up the demo a little bit. Cool. It's always great to see. All right, so here it's calling Duo Chat in Claude 2 to see there's some activity in window 3. So see if it's only. So just to confirm that it's calling my local instance. Right, so you can see that coming through here. Same for the AI gateway as well. Yeah, so it's doing the right thing. So I'll leave it running, and then we can, we're waiting to see what the input data set look like. So in order to do that, you need access to GCP. You have an account there. If you don't, you can still use the service account access key that we provided in 1Password, and run through a command line as well. So there, if you have a look at components list, there is what we call BigQuery command line tools. I'm not entirely sure if actually part of the initial install of GCloud, but if you don't have it, I'll say no. You can install it here as well. Just call it BigQuery. Okay, and then after that you can call query. So in fact, we can query the diagnostic v1 and see what it look like. That is the input data set. So here you see there, there should be only 20 records in here. The one that we use is the front. Test import and test list is actually part of the original MPP data set. We don't really use it here. So this can be cleaned up a fair bit as well. But yeah, it's only the froms I use at the moment. And this is the query that we send through Duo Chat, Claude 2, and other models as well to get the response. Cool. So that's what the output, what's the input, sorry. All right, so it seems like the requesting is done. Now we move into the evaluation step. So if I switch back to the diagram here, we've done with this part, right? And then we move into this evaluation steps here. Cool. Looks like it's done. 200 seconds, not too bad. All right, now let's view the result. So the few ways to do it, as I would stand now in main branch, the only way to see it is via BigQuery. We can do so as well via the command line. So we look at for the command I have earlier. So I export it here. The other thing that we've added is the table, like the suffix for different metrics. So that'll be your table name that you've had earlier, and then underscored. I think comparison. That is one table. All right, so we have a result here. So you can see here that answer from answering model is see above code, and this one from Duo Chat. So, and the comparison model is Claude 2. So Claude 2 responds with this, where Duo Chat is this one. So it feels like something was cut off also, because it didn't actually show the code snippet, but they see the above code snippet, so that is not too good, and that's what the similarity score between these two is at lower, I think. The other as well, the other one that's fairly low, and this one Duo Chat respond with like, you know, fairly unhelpful. And then Claude 2 had like a lot more details in here, and that's just something we want to inspect further. So that's how you view it via the BigQuery tool to BigQuery table. Now I'm running on a local branch, and this one support output to a local file, and you can see it's in here. So we have comparison and evaluate as well. So let's have a look at here one. So use a tool called XSV to view or query CSV files. You're more welcome to open it into Microsoft Excel or any CSV files or favorite CSV file or text editor if you want. So I have earlier, can update the output here. So select questions, answering model, comparison model, and comparison similarity in these files. Oops, it has to be path. Data, output. Cool. So it shows the same result. So the one that performed not so well is, yeah, this query, and write a Python function to convert complex numbers to polar coordinates. So maybe you want to investigate a little bit, or see if you can make changes to the JDK, rerun this again, and see if that score improve or not. Okay, so that's the idea. The other thing that I would like to show is another metric, which is the evaluate. Let's see if actually. So you can have a look at briefly correctness, readability, and questions. Now this is not part of this experiment because we picked this data set based on similarity score, but I would just like to show you for completeness as well. Select them in. Alright, let's see if it's actually in sync. It'd be interesting to see that. It's like the polar coordinates is like 444. Bell numbers are pretty bad when it grade as well, so this is something worth having a look. Yeah, I think that's that. So we can see this result locally if needed. So I hope to be able to take the input, local input as well, and that way you don't even need to have access to GCP and all that. But I'll be for another day. Thank you.